With new, gentler scented Clorox disinfecting wipes, clean finally smells as good as it feels on everything from lamps to ceiling fans, even on your kid's toy shark. Oh, ouch. Clorox disinfecting wipes, now available in crisp lemon. Find it on Amazon. Clorox, clean feels good.
Welcome back to I Want That Too, the podcast where Disney merch meets Disney history. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and as always, I'm joined by the lovely Lauren Hersey, who has been quite the traveler lately.
Shocker, right? And I was not at Disney. You were. You stole my trip.
I have to say, you had a pretty spectacular trip in and of itself.
I did. We finally had our New York trip, and I think it was like one of the most unexpected, like Disney, Wicked, Potter weekends that I have ever had, and I wasn't even in Florida. So much merch, so much to talk about. But before we jump into all of that for today, let's thank our sponsor and jump in because this is like Thanksgiving, right, Jim? Like dropping on Thanksgiving, Pilgrim sandwiches for all.
Yeah, well, there we go. Pilgrim sandwiches. Okay, now our sponsor, by the way, is the lovely folks at unlockmagic.com. They're the same trusted team behind the DVC rental store and DVC resale market. And if you're planning a Disney trip, they can get you the best deals on Walt Disney World tickets. I want to say sometimes as much as 12% off, right?
And that is right.
Yep. So, all right, here's what you do. Pick your dates, grab your tickets, and when you get them, be sure and tell the nice people at unlockmagic.com that it was Jim and Lauren who sent you, okay? So, all right. So, back now, Lauren, to this amazing trip to the Big Apple.
Yes. I mean, we were going for Wicked. We've talked about this. It was on Lainey's bucket list to see New York for Christmas and to see Wicked on Broadway. So that was the point of the trip. But we get to JFK from Pittsburgh, and it was not Glinda that we saw. We were smacked in the face by Zootopia. Too, in the biggest way possible. So I sent you a picture. So like as soon as we land, we get off the plane, like they have like the moving walkway. There was a full length like Zootopia video board. And not only that, I mean, there was also like little clips of the video running. Like it was everywhere. Crazy.
So a full terminal takeover.
Yeah, like wall-to-wall animation. And I'm like, how much does this cost? So I'm taking all the photos and videos. We have friends in Disney animation, and I wanted to be like, oh my gosh, how much does this cost? But, we've talked about the battle between the witches and, the bunny and the fox. But it no Wicked to be seen in JFK in the terminal.
I did get a teeny tiny itty bitty taste of this very same thing when I flew out of MCO on Saturday morning. You know how you're going through security and you get to that point where you have to, surrender you got to take your big electronics out of the thing and, put them in the tray, and then they send them to the x-ray machine. So I get to that point and I pick up the tray. And the tray is Zootopia themed. I mean, it's got Judy, it's got Nick, it's got Gary the Snake, it's got the Zootopia logo, it's got the release date. I mean, we didn't get. They didn't spend JFK level money on what they were doing in Orlando, which is interesting because Disney, that's a Disney company town. But at the same time, just a teeny tiny taste of that. But all right, anyway, back to encountering now the witches as we wander around New York.
Yeah, so I do want to mention Times Square, lots of Zootopia there as well. I mean, I'm in marketing and advertising, as a career, and I just couldn't wrap my mind around the amount of money these two films were spending. Is this normal? for this weekend, these couple weekends in November?
Well, look, Thanksgiving is always kind of an interesting holiday. I mean, we all go to spend time with our relatives, and then we eat the giant meal, and then we sit down on the couch, and somebody turns on football, and, about 5 minutes in, people are like, this is it? Is there anything else we can do? It's like, well, we go to a movie. And, so this 5-day weekend, because again, it typically the movies drop on Wednesday and, and then do solid business right up until Sunday night. In fact, as of right now, I want to say Zootopia 2, the projections on Disney's side of the fence, are $120 million just in North America. So to do this sort of ad spend out ahead of the one holiday where if you're a family film, that's a thing. I think that's why Universal and Disney went full bore with promotion for obviously Wicked for Good and Zootopia 2. But anyway, what else did we see as we wandered the city?
All right, we're back to the witches. So
okay.
there were some Wicked like promotion signage in Times Square, which is where we stayed. But we spent a lot of time in Rockefeller Center, and I was blown away. I cannot even explain to you how much Wicked they had going on. It was literally like a takeover of everything. And I'm not like talking just like posters or like just like simple things. It was everywhere. So the Rockefeller Center ice rink, it's famous, way smaller than I thought, but it had like pink and green lighting with the pink and green flags all the way around the ice rink. I think that was the first thing that we noticed. And I was kind of like, what's going on? And then we continued to walk, and then we saw like the yellow brick road and like the Wicked for Good logo with the date like painted on the street. Like, that's kind of crazy, right? Like, that's a lot.
Well, it is, but also consider what is broadcast out of Rockefeller Center, 30 Rock. For example, Today Show has its ground level studio right there. And remember that, NBC is, NBC Universal, which is owned by Comcast. And, Comcast has turned on the money fire hose with this film. So.
Heck yeah. But like it wasn't just on the ground. So that first day we did go see the Rockettes. We did like a behind the scenes tour. And after that, we went to the top of the Rock. Lainey has never been to New York before. Like rite of passage, you've got to do an observation tower. So first of all, she thought it was hilarious. There's 67 floors in the top of the Rock. I'm sure you've seen the whole like 6-7 reference. But anyways, like she's like, there's 67 floors. What?
Okay.
Yeah, but
that's funny.
Yeah, so you exit, like you get to the top of the little escalator thing, and there's like a big activation happening up there for photo ops, like on the side of the glass. And so that was a pleasant surprise. They also had some of the costumes within the top of the Rock building, and unfortunately we missed a lot of the fun activations that were going on in that weekend because we just didn't know. But we did do the Wicked ice skating. Like you got, it was kind of pricey, but you got like an hour, and it was every other song was a Wicked song. So yeah, and we were there, obviously, to see the Broadway show, and they had some exceptional merch. I would say I sent you a pic. You had your like standard stuff, but I wanted the Wicked like shirt that says like New York, like Wicked on Broadway, because a lot of the branding is kind of similar. I think. Yeah, but the coolest thing with that was they were also selling like a $25 add-on bundle. So you got the reusable shopper, you got Glinda socks, you got like a really nice big like magazine, like the history of Wicked on Broadway. You got a poster. Like it was really a great value for $25. So like I've been at a lot of different shows, but I think this was some of the best merch that I've seen at a show.
Well, and I remember that the show has been around since,
Forever.
2003?
Yeah.
Just recently celebrated its 20th anniversary on Broadway. And by now, they've gotten this down to a science. I mean, and again, they understand who's there. And, also the fact that somebody who walks out of the show wearing the Wicked t-shirt is, in essence, promoting the show for free. So it's like, absolutely, give us $25 and we'll give you a lot of stuff. So
Yeah. I mean, but I will tell you, for like a Monday night or Sunday night, whenever we were there, it was packed, Jim. Like, it was packed. So, like, obviously the hype of the movie and everything, and there's people like us that are like, oh, we've not seen the show. But the craziest thing was all of these activations were going on because of the movie premiere, like the following Friday. But we were sitting at dinner and Lainey got a notification on her phone. It was like some Instagram Live. It was like E! News. And we had no idea the actual like Wicked premiere was happening like down the road at Lincoln Center.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of Wicked, the movie, and again, just circling back to my own trip to Orlando, I went to Universal Studios, Florida this past Friday. By the way, very first day that this year's holidays at the Universal Orlando Resort celebration kicked off. And your husband, Eric, and I will be talking about that at some point, in fact, on the next Epic Universal podcast. But anyway, once you get past that theme park's entrance plaza, at the very top of Hollywood Boulevard, well, you were there before for this, the Wicked, the Experience, kind of a store / costume prop display. That's been in place in that theme park since November of last year, when the first Wicked movie came out. I bring this up today because a newly expanded version of Wicked the Experience opened about 3 weeks ago, and that they've replaced a number of the props from the first film now with props from Wicked for Good. And we got to get Lainey back there because they have this really cool Glinda-inspired photo op where you get to take a picture of yourself traveling inside of her bubble, which I thought was cool. Now, one little weird bend on the story. The day I visited Wicked the Experience was the very same day that Wicked for Good was opening in theaters, and my good friend Shelley Karen, who was taking Angela and I around the park, and making sure we didn't miss anything, pointed out they were just stocking the shelves of the Wicked the Experience store with Dorothy and the Cowardly Lion. They have plush for those characters, but because they had literally kept them in the back room off the shelves until the movie came out because they wanted them to be a surprise. But on the day the movie came out, it's like, okay, people know Dorothy's in it, people know the Cowardly Lion's in it, we can put those out. So but anyway, back now to your time in New York, and we were just talking about Thanksgiving, which makes you think of Thanksgiving Parade, which makes you think of Macy's, and you got there too, right?
Yeah. So bigger collaboration than I even realized reporting on it, because we did talk about some of the items that were part of that collaboration. But just to kind of paint the picture for you, if you walk into Macy's, off to your right, there was a big, you could not miss it, like a big, like Disney Macy's collab, like archway you would walk under and like go up a set of stairs to hit this collection. And like the Zootopia video board, it was like the entire stretch of the backside of the store was actually like like a cartoon animated version of like the Mickey and Minnie parade floats. And like the balloons were just like floating by as you shopped, which I thought that was a really, really nice touch.
Yeah.
Did you realize it's the 99th Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade?
Is it really? Wow, I hadn't put that together. Just to circle back though, so what was in the collection that you saw there in the store? I mean, I know you talked about some select items on an earlier edition of I Want That Too, but you got to see the full gamut this time around, right?
Yeah, and I think that there are items that you can only buy at the New York location because Disney and Macy's, they have this collab, you know, universally, like you can go on the website. But I grabbed like this gray, like NYC shirt with Mickey and Minnie as the balloons, like with the balloon letters, because how often can you really take home a piece of Disney, Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the year that the parade studio was nice enough to give Nancy and I seats. In fact, our friend Flo and her mom came along, but we had seats right there on 34th Street. And, the ladies then went in, to the store and whatever Disney-related stuff, that credit card bill hurt, but it was cool stuff. A lot of cool stuff.
Gosh, so cool. So I got the sweatshirt. I also had to get we talked about like the Ruby Woo red lipstick, which is like a famous color from MAC, but they had Mini Woo. So I had to go back downstairs and get that from the MAC counter. But they had all kinds of like glassware, ornaments, shirts, like keepsakes, like that are really pretty mini bow topper. Like you could tell that they like really leaned heavily, obviously, into mini again this year. So really impressed. But as I was kind of weaving my way through that area, then do you remember me talking about the arcade games?
Oh, this was Marvel stuff, right? Or Marvel related?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So like you could hear this like when you walked up the steps, but you couldn't see it. Like you don't know what was going on. So I kept walking through and full blown arcade games. The kids were playing lots of Marvel merch, and then like walking to the end of that wall, it was just the Thanksgiving Day parade specific merch. So it was fantastic. But after all of that at Macy's, I mean, I think like working up a thirst. And we were at the Harry Potter store.
Oh, I have wanted to check this out. This opened like 2 or 3 years ago in the city, right?
Yes, it was fantastic. So we actually met with your co-host of the Case 4, Chris Cox. He was,
Okay.
So Chris was in town opening Mario the Maker. It's like a kids' magic show. And so we were getting together to grab some butterbeer. But if you're in New York and you're a Harry Potter fan, like you cannot miss this. Just the theming. They had a giant chocolate frog. They had like a green screen, like broom experience where you can like ride your own broom. And the butterbeer I thought it was really good. I think it was like sweeter than what you would get in the parks, but came in a souvenir stein, I guess you could say, that you got to take home. They had the hot, frozen, and regular. Only complaint, no chairs in the butterbeer bar. You got to stand around and drink it.
Yeah, well, but think about it. They get you all hopped up on sugar, and which destroys your impulse control, and then you'll buy more Potter stuff.
Yes, but I have to tell you about like my favorite souvenir that I picked up from the Harry Potter store. So Dobby, right? The house elf.
Sure.
Okay, so both Chris and I grabbed these for kids, but they're eye masks that you would wear to bed, and they're Dobby's eyes, and you can either have them open or you could close the eyelids. They're fantastic. So I got Lainey and Miles, each one. I have to take your picture. But so good.
Wow. Just to stand there at Zootopia 2 and Wicked and Macy's and Harry Potter and Disney, that's a crazy amount of fandom inside of one weekend.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. And I got to top it off with the going to the Disney store in Times Square. It was one of the last things that we did on the trip, and it did not disappoint. It really did not. Like 2 stories, which I think is pretty darn big for a Disney store. And they had some cool items that I've never seen before. Like they had a doll set that was Ariel and all of her sisters.
Oh,
Isn't that crazy?
That Arista, Della, and the crew. Wow, that is kind of cool. All right.
Yeah, they had Belle's Christmas dress for sale. If you have like a little girl, you can't get Belle's Christmas dress from like the holiday short film.
Yeah, wow.
Oh, it was good.
Well, good. Now speaking of which, folks, if you hear what Lauren just went through and think, well, maybe I need to go to New York City as well. If that's the case and you're thinking about doing it anytime soon, want to make you aware that Disney Theatrical, and those are the folks who are doing the long-running stage shows like Lion King and Aladdin, they have a Black Friday sale coming up this week that will supposedly get you 2-for-1 seats to these stage shows. Now, mind you, folks who already subscribe to the Disney Theatrical social media channels, they've actually been able to get in on the exclusive pre-sale for this Black Friday offer, but that actually ends tonight at midnight, Wednesday, November 26th, and the general public is supposed to be able to take advantage of this 2-for-1 deal starting on Thanksgiving Day. And speaking of Thanksgiving Day, look, I have been a fan of Prep and Landing since this franchise first launched back in 2009. Created by Kevin Dieters and Stevie Warmer-Skelton. This is the holiday special that introduced the world to Wayne and Lanny, the elves who help get your house ready for Santa's arrival every Christmas Eve. Went on to win an Emmy. Wonderful holiday special. Disney continued the series with a short subject, Secret Santa, that came out in 2010. Worth seeing today because who voices Mrs. Claus in this special, Lauren? Betty White. But then, very next year, 2011, we got the second holiday special in the series, Prep and Landing, Naughty versus Nice, which introduced us to Wayne's baby brother, Noel, who is a coal elf. And by the way, on the heels of that, again, this is a merch podcast. I want to remind folks, there was Prep and Landing merch. Hard to find today, but a lot of it was actually sold at your local Hallmark stores, and there were, Prep and Landing elf hats with eyes, and in fact, they too had goggles, night vision goggles. And of course there were ornaments for Wayne and Landy. But this year we finally get a third Prep and Landing holiday special, the Snowball Protocol, which the reason I'm talking this up right now is it debuts tonight on the Disney Channel. Again, that's Thanksgiving night, November 27th, and then becomes available for streaming tomorrow over on Disney Plus. So again, Friday, November 28th. But if you want your maximum pile of Prep and Landing goodness, you have to tune into ABC this Sunday night, November 30th, because starting at 8 o'clock, it's a Prep and Landing marathon. You get the original, starting at 8 o'clock. Naughty versus Nice follows at 8:30. Snowball Protocol, makes its network television debut at 9 p.m. And then the capper, Lauren, to close out this 2-hour block of holiday programming, it's Olaf's Frozen Adventure, which, by the way, debuted back in November of 2017 and was also created by Kevin Dieters and Stevie Warmer-Skelton. And that, honestly, the perfect capper for the long Thanksgiving weekend. And speaking of Thanksgiving, when we get back from this break, Lauren and I are going to talk about 2 Disney turkeys that you may or may not know about. But first, this So why do we all go home for the holidays? For a home-cooked meal, of course. I mean, everyone knows that the very best meals are the ones that are made at home, right? But when we get back to our own homes, how do we then keep the quality cuisine coming? It's simple, really. Just sign up for EveryPlate, and you'll then get new recipes delivered to your door every week. We're talking everything you need to make a restaurant-quality meal. Things like sweet chili chicken with scallion rice and zesty carrots. I just made this. This comes with a sweet, spicy lemon-spiked chili sauce, which tastes great with the jasmine rice that comes with this recipe. I also recently made EveryPlate's jam and fig pork chops with broccoli and crispy potatoes. And that combination of seared pork and roasted broccoli, it just can't be beat. And with EveryPlate, they send everything you need to make these great meals. Pre-portioned ingredients, not to mention EveryPlate's easy-to-follow recipe cards, which in just 6 simple steps gets a fresh, delicious meal on the table, typically in under a half hour. And the best thing is, since EveryPlate gives you 30-plus recipes to choose from every week, you'll always have something new to try. And with EveryPlate, you'll spend less on homemade meals than you would on your groceries. So what are you waiting for? Dig into these flavor-packed meals your household will love. New customers can enjoy this special offer of only $1.99 a meal. Go to everyplate.com/podcast and use code TOO199 to get started. Applied as discount on first box, limited time only. Again, that's everyplate.com/podcast and use code TOO199 to get started. We thank them for sponsoring today's show.
Hello, I'm Diane Morgan. If you know who I am, you know who I am. If you don't, who cares? I'm here to explain Italian Time, a holiday phenomenon where Italians throw away their clocks and gather for eternity with San Pellegrino. I've been at this party so long that I've eaten 5 courses, hugged someone's grandma twice, and been offered a job in the family restaurant. So this holiday season, make sure to bring enough San Pellegrino to last you through the meal, the after meal, and the entire goodbye ritual. San Pellegrino, holiday on Italian Time.
Oh, Hilton stay, your beds are soft and cozy. No lumpy couch, no stiff futon, no shower line at crack of dawn. Oh, Hilton stay.
When you want holiday comfort you can count on, it matters where you stay. Enjoy comfortable rooms and friendly service when you stay with Hilton instead. Save up to 25% this season when you book with Hilton. Hilton for the stay. Terms apply.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
And we're back. Before we get started here, gotta ask, anything special planned for the Hersey household for Thanksgiving? I mean, Go-Go's gotta be there, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're going to Go-Go's house.
Oh,
I got my pumpkin roll and my cranberry relish, and we're heading to Go-Go's house. How about you, Jim?
Well, again, Nancy is actually at 7:50 Thanksgiving morning, or earlier today, as you're listening to the show, I took Nancy to the airport. She flew out to Kansas City, where she's spending the next 4 days hanging out with her Hallmark hunks, and I'm kind of a Thanksgiving orphan, But it's okay.
You come to West Virginia, and Go-Go will feed you too.
Okay, well, I have some lovely friends here, the Gennards, who have invited me to dinner. In fact, Nancy's sister, Kathy, has also invited me to come by. I'm baking pies for both of these folks as a thank you. I think I'm doing actual Thanksgiving with the Gennards, and then, dessert with Kathy and Nancy's nieces and nephews. But anyway, again, we're talking about the holidays here, and if you've paid attention to this podcast, we've been talking about how the Disney parks just went from celebrating Halloween since August to now they're celebrating Christmas right up until January. And what's interesting is Disney does other holidays as well. I mean, they do 4th of July in a big way, and they've tried to get into Valentine's Day. In fact, Bill Farmer, the voice of Goofy, the very first time Disney hired him to voice that character was for Disney's Doggone Valentine's Day special, which first aired back in February of 1987. So think about that, Lauren. He'll have been voicing Goofy for 40 years in 2027. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
And now Thanksgiving, if you're in the Disney parks, well, you know, you can get Chippendale's Harvest Meal at the Garden Grill at Epcot. That sounds like a Thanksgiving meal. It's not. It's something they offer all the time. Likewise, if you go to the Liberty Tree Tavern in the Magic Kingdom, they have a meal that features roast turkey. But again, that they serve that year round along with pot roast. You know, it's an all you care to eat thing. But what's interesting is that Disney did, in fact, once really try to do Thanksgiving in a big way. In Florida, they had the Pocahontas Thanksgiving Feast. And I want to say this was a year or so after that animated film first opened in theaters in June of 95. Lauren, this was held in one of the ballrooms at the Contemporary Hotel. Full spread for Thanksgiving, and as you know, and you're sitting there at the table with your family, and John Smith and Pocahontas and Miko, the walk-around characters, are making the rounds, you know. But here's the thing, Lauren, not all that well attended, because the people who had come down to Florida over the Thanksgiving holiday, they wanted to be in the parks.
You know, eat their turkey leg on the move.
There we go. Yeah. Now, what's kind of interesting about building a Thanksgiving celebration around Pocahontas is because if you go back to when this film was first put in development, Pocahontas' best friend was supposed to be Red Feather, a turkey that was supposed to be voiced by John Candy. In fact, we back up the truck all the way to, it's 1990. And Mike Gabriel, who's just co-directed The Rescue is Down Under for Disney, he's eager to line up his next project. So he goes home for Thanksgiving. And while he's home, he comes across a book of the life of Pocahontas. And he's reading it, and it's like, this might actually be a Disney movie. So he preps a pitch for his boss at Feature Animation, who was Jeffrey Katzenberg at the time. And here's actually what Mike put together for, you know, to sell Jeffrey on the idea of a Pocahontas movie. That, you know, the log line is an Indian princess who is torn between her father's wishes to destroy the English settlers and her wishes to help them. Makes Pocahontas a girl caught between her father and her people and her love of the enemy. Now, note in there, Lauren, the use of the word girl, because Mike's original pitch for Pocahontas called for this Indian princess to be no more than 10, maybe 11.
What?
Yeah. Now, likewise, John Smith was going to be a cabin boy on the Susan Constant, the ship that sailed over to America, with the idea here being, well, you know, the Bible verse, a child shall lead them. You know, the idea was that these two kids were going to be the ones that prevented the Native Americans and the English settlers from going to war. Now, problem is, while Pocahontas is in development, this is when Beauty and the Beast arrives in theaters, November of 91, becomes this huge hit with adults. And a lot of the reason that adults came out is like, oh, it's a lovely romantic story. And then, you know, surprised that it becomes the very first Disney full-length animated film to be nominated for the Best Picture Oscar. And Katzenberg, you know, that award slips to his hand, and he's determined that the next movie that Disney puts in production will take that award, and this is Pocahontas. So Pocahontas now suddenly has to be big and important. And more importantly, appeal to adults. So this is why Jeffrey turns to Mike Gabriel and insists that no, she can't be 11. She's got to be at least 18. More to the point, she's got to be the most beautiful woman on the planet. And by the way, this is going to be a serious movie. So she can't have cute little talking animal friends. And now, what frustrates Gabriel about this, because he's just been partnered with Eric Goldberg, who, by the way, was the lead animator on the genie in Aladdin. All right, so Eric is capable of doing some of the funniest animation on the planet. And here's Jeffrey Katzenberg. No, it's got to be serious. It's got to be important. It's like, I got Eric Goldberg right here. What are you doing to me? And so, so he's really against this idea. It's like, no, she needs to be a young girl. And again, she should have, talking animal friends, because I want to use John Candy. Now, John Candy had already done Splash for Disney. That came out in 1984. By the way, studio's first big hit since The Love Bug back in 1968. So, Disney was very grateful to John Candy. In fact, they bring him back to do The Rescuers Down Under in 1990, again, directed by Mike Gabriel, and he's now on deck to do Cool Running for Disney, the Jamaican bobsled movie.
Oh yeah.
But so, long story short, John Candy is a known quantity at Disney, and everything he touches, he makes funnier and better. By the way, if you want to learn more about John Candy, there is the wonderful new documentary, I Like Me. Likewise, Paul Meyer's terrific new book. And on a personal note, I actually worked for John Candy back in 1980. I was, a writer, an assistant writer, on a project called Roadshow. To give you some idea how long ago this was, Lauren, 1980, this was a pilot for a show that was being considered as a possible replacement for Saturday Night Live, because that show had been on since 1975 at that point. And oh man, there's no way that thing's going to run any longer than that, right? Woof, But anyway, I got to work with John Candy, and I have to say, he was one of the nicest people on the planet. Just a genuinely sweet guy who was a friend to everybody, including lowly little assistant writers and the crew and all that. And by the way, something he did every day, I actually adopted into my own life. It would be 4:00 in the afternoon on the set, and somebody would look at their watch and go, 4:00, John. And he'd say, okay, hang on, and bring me the phone. And he deliberately called his home back up in Canada just as the kids were getting home from school. And it was just, a quick daddy check-in call. How was your day? And, how was school? What did you do? What did you have for lunch? I mean, was it this nothing 5-minute-long conversation that typically end with, all right, daddy's wearing a dress. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got a big wig on. I'll have them take a picture and I'll send it home. And, love you. Tell your mom I said I love you. And they would hang up and they would go back to work. And it was just this, he was made a point of being in his kid's life every day. And when Michelle and I, separated, and she took, Alice back to Honolulu, I was heartbroken. But I remembered what John had done. And so as soon as Alice was able to understand who was on the phone, I called her every day. In fact, I still do that today. Every night at 11 o'clock, she's out in, LA with her mom. But every day, or every night at 11 o'clock, I'm on the phone with my daughter. And again, it's a nothing call. It's just, how was your day? What are you up to? And then, I'll check in again tomorrow. But I do that because of him. But anyway, back to Pocahontas. Red Feather got so far along in development, Lauren, they actually assigned an animator to work on him. Nick Ranieri, the gentleman who did Lumiere in Beauty and the Beast, was assigned to do Red Feather, but when that character ultimately got cut from the film, because we're making something serious, important, Nick got assigned to Red Feather's replacement, which was Miko the raccoon, who doesn't talk. Now, downside was Pocahontas comes out after The Lion King, which was at the time the highest grossing animated film of all time. And Pocahontas did about 2/3 of the business of Lion King. And look, that doesn't make it a turkey. But it's kind of concerned folks in animation. It's like, what's happening here? And by the way, those of you who maybe remember the Drawn to Animation show at Disney MGM or at California Adventure might remember, this is that show where Mushu is interacting on the screen with the live animator down on stage. As part of that show, they actually tell the story of Red Feather and Miko. So, Red Feather actually makes a cameo in that film. But anyway, so folks, long story short, that's a turkey you didn't get to see. When Lauren and I get back from this break, we will talk about the turkey that you did get to see in Chicken Little. But first, this.
The Who's down in Who Newville were making their list, but some didn't know Walmart has the best brands for their gifts.
What about toys? Do they have brands kids have been wanting all year?
Yep, Barbie, Tony's, and Lego. Gifts that will make them all cheer.
Do you mean they have all the brands I adore?
They have Nintendo, Nespresso, Apple, and more.
What about...
So the Who answered questions from friends till they were blue. Each one listened and shouted, from Walmart? Who knew? Shop gifts from top brands for everyone on your list in the Walmart app.
We find Vecna, we end this once and for all, together.
On December 25th.
We have a plan. It's a bit insane. Everyone in?
He knows where we are.
Watch out!
Get ready for one last adventure.
We stay true to ourselves. Stay true to our friends, no matter the cost.
Found you. Stranger Things, Season 5, Volume 2, begins December 25th, only on Netflix.
No one should have to choose between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Purina is helping to create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters through the Purple Leash Project, so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
And we're back. Okay, so Lauren was just talking about visiting the Macy's flagship store at 34th Street and getting to see their Disney-related balloons Thanksgiving thing. Did they have any images from the balloons Disney-related balloons that have been in the actual Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade there in the store?
No, they were just animated, cartoons of Mickey and Minnie balloons. So no history.
Okay, cool. Well, we were just talking about Chicken Little, folks, and the Chicken Little balloon. Do you remember that, Lauren?
I do, it was yesterday.
Okay, all right, because it was big.
It's giant.
60 feet tall, 28 feet wide. By the way, actually debuted in the parade the year before Chicken Little went out in theaters. This is 2004. The movie originally was supposed to be out summer of 2005, wound up getting pushed to late October of that same year. And the Chicken Little balloon enjoyed a long run in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. It was part of the show through 2011. Whereas Chicken Little, the movie, didn't do what Disney hoped. And then, when you factor in that, just a couple of months after it debuted in theaters, January of 2006, Disney buys Pixar for $7.4 billion. And they then decide what movies the company going to make going forward. But anyway, Lauren, the reason we're talking today about Chicken Little is that movie features Turkey Lurkey, the mayor of Okie Oaks, and that character was voiced by Don Knotts. Now, I have to ask, when I mentioned Don Knotts, what do you remember him from?
I know that I'm younger, but our station had a deal with Andy Griffith. like it was some kind of a barter thing that it ran in the 7 o'clock hour. So probably that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And, well, I mean, there's a reason you'd remember that because, Don Knotts played Deputy Sheriff Barney Fife on that show. By the way, took home 5 Emmys for that performance. So, people really enjoyed him as that character. On the other hand, if you were in your 40s, maybe you remember him as Ralph Furley, the landlord on Three's Company. There's also a couple of animated films that Don did, most notably The Incredible Mr. Limpet, that came out in 1964, and Disney animation fans know that one largely because it features animation by Disney legend Bill Teitla, the guy who did Chernabog and Fantasia. But did you ever get to see any of Don's films for Disney?
No, I don't think I have. Can say I have.
Okay, well, he started the studio in 1974 on the Apple Dumpling Gang. What was interesting, Disney decided to pair him with Tim Conway. They played Amos Tucker and Theodore Ogilvy, these two bumbling crooks of the Old West, and Disney was kind of hoping for a Laurel and Hardy pairing. Film opens in theaters July of 1975, and from all accounts, Don was, this complete pro in the set. Everyone at Disney loved working with them. In fact, so much so that they invited him back in rapid succession to do like 5 more movies for Disney. There was No Deposit, No Return, February of 1976. There was Gus, the Field-Kicking Mule.
Sad I missed that one.
Yeah, well, the cinematic masterpiece, let me tell you. There was then the third Love Bug movie, Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo. That was June of 1977. Hot Lead and Cold Feet, July of 1978. And finally, the sequel to Apple Dumpling Gang, the Apple Dumpling Gang Rides Again.
So did you think they really liked him? Because I don't think I've heard of any of those movies.
Well, but what's kind of, and it is interesting you bring that up because there were people at Disney at the time who, to be blunt, said, we're making some pretty forgettable family-friendly films here, and that maybe, we need to pivot to doing some other stuff. This, by the way, is late 1979, early 1980 when this is going on. And but on the other hand, Tim Conway so enjoys working with Don Knotts, and it's like, well, if Disney doesn't want to make these movies, maybe somebody else will. So he contacts some investors, and they actually make 2 additional films together. They make The Prize Fighter, June of 1979, and then The Private Eyes, April of 1980. And then around this same time, Knotts lands his gig on Three's Company, which continues for 5 years until the show wraps its run on ABC in the spring of 1984. And then after that, Don eventually winds up working with his old pal Andy Griffith on the Matlock series. That's from 1988 to 1992. But here's the part of the story that a lot of people don't know, Lauren, that in the 80s, Don developed macular degeneration in both eyes. So his eyesight started to go. And again, to tell you what a kind, decent man Andy Griffith was, well, first of all, he had this role created for his friend when he learned that, Don wasn't getting acting jobs anymore because his eyesight was gone. So, he created this kooky, crazy neighbor that lived next to Matlock who would periodically come over. And when it came time for Don to shoot his scenes on the Matlock series, Andy himself would go get Don from his trailer and bring him onto the set, and would not just rehearse with him, but go, okay, so the chair you need to get to is 2 feet to your left there, and the glass you're going to reach for is on the side table, and that's, to your right. About he blocked the scene out for his friend. Which again, I just love that story.
Too.
That he kept his friend working. But Don had a lot of friends in the industry at that point who, when he couldn't act anymore, it's like, well, you can do voice acting. And that's how, for example, how he wound up in Cats Don't Dance, the animated feature directed by Mark Dindale that came out in March of 97. And Don, voices T.W. Turtle, a would-be actor in Hollywood who's struggling. But anyway, Don, it's such a pleasure to work with. Mark so enjoys him. We jump ahead 8 years, and now Mark is directing Chicken Little for Disney, and they're looking at the character of Turkey Lurkey, and it's like, well, who do we get for that? And Mark's like, I know the guy. Let me make a call. And so Don comes in and does a wonderful job as Mayor Turkey Lurkey. And again, that film comes out, Lauren, late October of 2005, and we lose Don. Just a few months later, February of 2006, at the age of 81. And though kind of a fun little button on his career, the very last movie that Don did voice work for doesn't come out till 10 months after we lose him, and that's Air Buddies.
I know Air Buddies.
Okay, well, then you can actually see or listen to Don's last performance, where, in kind of a callback to his role on the old Andy Griffith Show, he voiced the sheriff's deputy dog, Sniffer.
Oh.
I myself was lucky enough to get to interview Don back in 1998 for his appearance in Pleasantville, the Gary Ross movie. He plays the TV repairman in that film. And I have to tell you, Lauren, Don Knotts, when I got to sit down to talk with him, was just who you wanted Don Knotts to be. He was this very humble, sweet, funny guy who was very quick to praise the people that he'd worked with over the years. He had all these great stories about Andy Griffith and Tim Conway and John Ritter. But he just played down his own contributions. No, I was lucky enough to work with some very talented people. But again, not a turkey, Don Knotts, I mean, and by the way, if you want to see a good movie this Thanksgiving weekend, watch Cats Don't Dance or Pleasantville. Chicken Little, it's fine. Don's voice work in the film was a high point, but that movie itself suffers from too much executive meddling. But anyway, I think on that note, our Thanksgiving version of I Want That Too has come to a close.
I think so, Jim. I gotta go get my turkey leg and close up the shop for today.
Well, okay. And by the way, folks, if you want to keep up with everything happening across the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network, you can follow us on social. And don't forget to check out our Patreon for bonus shows and early access.
Yes, and if you've got a question or idea, we'd love to hear from you. Shoot us a message, jims@jimhillmedia.com, and I'm at Lauren@LaurenHersey.com.
And if you like the show, leave us a quick rating, a review. It helps other Disney fans out there find I Want That Too.
Well, Jim, that does it on this Thanksgiving. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on I Want That Too.